This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
The UAE gives a Chinese COVID-19 vaccine the green light for public use after declaring it 86% effective. We look at what Africa can expect once the COVID-19 vaccines become available. And Zimbabwe authorities call off rescue mission at mine collapse site, citing dangerous conditions. Hello and welcome to Africa Live. As always, great to have you with us. I'm Richard Nta, live in Nairobi. And for those of you joining us from across the continent and around the globe, we thank you for joining us. Let's take a look at other stories making headlines this hour. Zimbabwe to ban importation of second-hand vehicles older than 10 years. And in sports, dramatic scenes at European Champions League as racism row overshadows a crucial match. Once again, welcome to Africa Live. So good to have you with us. I'm Richard Nta. Let's begin in the United Arab Emirates, where the country has officially registered the coronavirus vaccine produced by Chinese drug giant Sinopharm. It says the vaccine is 86% effective based on third phase trials. In September, the UAE authorized emergency use of the vaccine for certain groups. This was the first such international clearance for a vaccine developed in China. And let's turn our attention to Morocco now, where the country says it plans to roll out China's Sinopharm vaccine as soon as its phase 3 trials are over. Officials have also ordered vaccine doses from AstraZeneca and are in talks with other coronavirus vaccine makers. The North African country has so far over 384,000 cases and more than 6,000 deaths. There are over 200 COVID-19 vaccines being developed globally, and several countries are expected to begin vaccinations in December. The UK has already begun, but according to a World Health Organization report, the African continent has much to do before it becomes fully ready for a vaccine rollout. CGTN's Robert Nagila has more details.
As developed countries prepare for a COVID-19 vaccine rollout, a study by the World Health Organization in November found that Africa is far from ready for the immunization drive. The study, based on self-reports by African countries, shows that the continent has an average 33% readiness for a vaccine rollout, well below the 80% benchmark. The analysis found that 49% of African countries had identified priority populations for vaccination, while 24% of countries had adequate plans for resources and funding. WHO estimates the cost of rolling out a COVID-19 vaccine on the African continent will be around $5.7 billion. Now, in September, the World Health Organization announced African countries will begin receiving COVID-19 vaccines in small portions from 2021. Each country will get doses that vaccinate 1 in every 5 people, beginning with the most vulnerable. WHO, together with Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovation, and other partners are working to ensure access to vaccines in Africa through the COVAX facility. Now, COVAX was established to ensure equitable access and allocation of COVID-19 vaccines between developed countries and the developing world. And many African countries are now looking to China for a vaccine. Compared with Pfizer and Moderna, Chinese vaccines have a huge advantage. Storage for most of them does not require freezing temperatures, making transport and distribution of the vaccine easier.
U.S. President-elect Joe Biden has laid out his plans to fight the coronavirus pandemic during his first 100 days in office. He says his administration will vaccinate 100 million Americans, and he has vowed to reopen schools and strengthen mask mandates. This comes after the Trump administration held a summit on vaccine development on Tuesday. Nathan King reports.
With the approval of the first vaccine to protect against COVID-19 in the United States potentially just days away, this White House summit is timely. Aimed at educating and reassuring the public about the coronavirus vaccine and its distribution, the Operation Warp Speed event was also staged to thank those who made it possible in record time. US President Trump began by giving himself credit.
Today we're on the verge of another American medical miracle, and that's what people are saying. People that aren't necessarily big fans of Donald Trump are saying, whether you like him or not, this is one of the greatest miracles in the history of modern day medicine or any other medicine, any other age of medicine.
With approval of the dual-dose Pfizer and its German partner BioNTech's vaccine expected in the next few days, the US Food and Drug Administration announced that it backs findings that it is around 95% effective. Noticeably absent, however, from this meeting, representatives of Pfizer and other vaccine manufacturers. Also, Dr. Anthony Fauci, the nation's top infectious disease expert, who has often contradicted the president over COVID-19. The White House says it's ready to ship 6 million doses of the vaccine, which will be sent to states, then distributed to frontline healthcare workers and the elderly in nursing homes first. Officials say every American will receive at least one dose of the vaccine by the middle of 2021, although reports suggest the White House has not yet guaranteed the delivery of more than 100 million doses. The US president signed an executive order that he said would ensure Americans get the vaccine first ahead of other nations. Other officials remain silent on the issue.
We still have a lot to do. We still have vaccines that are being tested in phase 3. We are continuing to drive as fastly and as safely as we can the development and the manufacturing of this vaccine.
Other vaccines are also on the way, and they can't come soon enough. The United States, which is seeing record cases, hospitalizations and deaths. Also absent from this event were members of the transition team of President-elect Joe Biden. It will largely fall to his administration to make sure that every American gets a vaccine. Meanwhile, President Trump used this event to incorrectly say once again that he won the election, choosing to focus on votes, not the vaccine. Nathan King, CGTN at the White House.
Top UN peacekeeping and peace-building officials have met the Security Council and briefed them on the situation in Sudan. The coronavirus pandemic, severe flooding, and an influx of over 48,000 refugees from Ethiopia have put a strain on the Sudanese authorities and increased humanitarian needs. The UN is currently winding down its peacekeeping mission in Darfur. It is also preparing to launch an integrated transition assistance mission in Sudan on the 1st of January 2021.
Despite the progress observed, political forces are increasingly fragmented. Disagreements have surfaced, particularly over the mandate and functions of the Council of Partners that was established on 1 December. The mission will focus on the 4 objectives outlined in Resolution 2524. Assist the political transition, support peace processes, assist peace building, civilian protection, and the rule of law, and support the mobilization of economic development and humanitarian assistance. It will provide good offices, technical support, and capacity building, and will leverage the work of the United Nations country team. It is critical that the international community continue supporting Sudan's economic recovery through funding of the basic income cash transfer program known as the Family Support Program, intended to mitigate the social impact of the transitional government's economic reform agenda.
There is a real opportunity to end the decades-long conflict in Darfur through the implementation of the Juba Peace Agreement. The immediate peace dividends, the permanent ceasefire, and the deployment of the joint security-keeping forces will change the dynamics on the ground and enhance the ongoing government efforts to gain the confidence of the local communities. This will be the critical area for the UN and other international partners to further consider optimal modalities for support in discussion with the parties.
We call on the Security Council to support the work of UNITAMS as it commences its mandate on January 1st next year, particularly reaching a consensus on the appointment of the Special Representative of the Secretary General and support its programmed funding. From its part, Sudan shall support UNITAMS in order to implement its strategic objectives as mandated by the Council.
In Liberia, vote counting is underway following a constitutional referendum on Tuesday. Liberians are choosing whether or not to shorten presidential terms. President George Weah has told supporters keeping the same leader for years is not the way to go. But critics fear that he could use the change to seek a third term. President Weah has denied the claim. The country's constitution currently sets a maximum of 2 terms. Initial results are expected this week. If passed, presidents and lower house lawmakers will serve 5 years instead of 6, and senators 7 years instead of 9. Voters are also choosing whether to repeal a 1973 ban on dual nationality. Liberians with 2 nationalities are barred from owning property at home. And should the referendum overturn the dual nationality ban, Liberians with 2 passports will still remain barred from elected office.
I ask all Liberians to be peaceful, to come to the polling center, exercise their franchise, select their candidates, and live with peace. And at the end of the day, the result will come, and those that were elected, those that voted for, will win. But the country needs to be peaceful. We don't need to tear our country down.
The process is very smooth, and I think it will be okay.
Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has arrived in Kenya for a 2-day tour with a focus on promoting bilateral trade relations. He is meeting Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta. He is also expected to launch the Trans-African Highway in Kenya's north. The move is expected to ease immigration and customs clearance. Kenya and Ethiopia signed a bilateral agreement in 2011 to develop the joint border point and road to enhance trade relations. This is Abiy's second official visit to Kenya. An Ethiopian National Disaster Risk Management Commission says the humanitarian situation in the north of the country is significantly improving. Authorities say the much-needed assistance is being delivered consistently to the affected. The UN still estimates thousands remain in a dire humanitarian situation in the country. And here is CGTN's Gerum Chala with more.
After the government's law enforcement mission in the north has been completed, Ethiopian officials say they are working to improve the dire humanitarian situation in Tigray.
Currently, we are able to dispatch non-food and food items to deliver for more than 250,000 people in the region. So most of the commodities have already reached major sites in the region. We deploy around 8 coordination teams, which are drawn from a member of the National Disaster Prevention and Preparedness Committee to coordinate and facilitate the delivery of the food and non-food items to the needy one.
The government of Ethiopia says its collaborative effort with the UN is already showing results.
Key members of the cluster are represented in the Emergency Coordination Center. You know well about Emergency Coordination Center. It is international standard. It brings all partners in one platform, in one room, to coordinate well all efforts of food and non-food supply. So key members of clusters are represented in the Emergency Coordination Center, which is hosted at the National Disaster Risk Management Commission. So they are working for 7 days and 24 hours, through which we are able to coordinate all efforts, as I mentioned earlier, to deliver food and non-food items to the needy one.
Ethiopia has already signed a joint agreement with the United Nations for an enhanced coordination mechanism for humanitarian access, and also to join hands with global aid agencies like the UNHCR to address the current humanitarian crisis. Ethiopia rehabilitated millions of its conflict-affected IDPs in different parts of the country last year and has returned them back to their original residence. The government says that is the kind of experience it banks on to address its current crisis in the north as soon as possible. Gerum Chala, CGTN, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
The search for dozens of miners trapped underground at a Zimbabwean mine since November the 25th has been called off after officials said it would be too dangerous to undertake the rescue mission. Farai Mwakatuya with the details.
Hundreds of artisanal miners were working here when the ground above gave in, burying about 40 of them underground. Rescuers haven't been able to pick through the dirt because of waterlogging. Pumping the water out has been hampered by heavy rainfall, which has also affected the integrity of the site. That ground above the shafts where the miners are trapped has become unstable, and any disturbance to it by rescuers may cause it to cave in and collapse on top of them. Authorities have now called off the search, but agonizing family members who'd hoped for a quick rescue say they're still in the dark. Nyanguru Pia's 26-year-old son is among the missing.
I haven't been told anything, but I keep coming here because even if I stayed at home, I won't be able to sleep or eat because I'm so worried. He's my only child.
Abandoning the search would rob her of closure as an undesirable outcome becomes increasingly inevitable.
If I can get just a limb or even a bone to bury in our village, at least I can say this is where he's laid to rest, instead of him remaining somewhere in that mine.
This disaster is the latest of many in the artisanal gold mining sector, which is notoriously dangerous and ecologically destructive. Even though it wasn't the first mishap at this mine, many still ventured into its tight crevices.
There is a rich vein of gold here, and it is easy to mine. A day's work can earn you enough money to take care of your family.
Chiroji survived the collapse because he had come up to the surface to fetch some tools. His relief is overshadowed by anguish and grief because it's his brother who'd sent him and remains buried beneath the earth. Farai Mwakatuya, CGTN, Bindura, Zimbabwe.
Africa is a continent of diversity, with varied climates and enchanting geography, and a people so distinct, but with a shared enduring spirit. We are at the heart of the continent to bring you the untold stories.
Let's have a look.
We celebrate Africa as it shapes its own destiny.
Tunis, Cairo,
Juba,
Johannesburg, Ethiopia,
Tanzania.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
A major conference has just been concluded in Mogadishu with key donors gauging the progress made ahead of Somalia's general election. The annual gathering was attended by foreign diplomats and heads of missions in the country. From Mogadishu, CGTN's Abdulaziz Billo has more details.
Excellencies. The one-day gathering brought together representatives from the federal government, regional administrations, and Somalia's international partners to take stock of progress made in the past year. Upcoming elections, the fight against militant group Al-Shabaab, security and economic development were among the issues discussed. Due to security challenges, the annual gathering took place at the heavily fortified Mogadishu International Airport compound. The upcoming general election, set to be held next year, dominated talks, with some regional leaders accusing the federal government of failing to honor the election deal signed in the capital last September. Somali Prime Minister Mohamed Hussein Roble, who chaired the event, has vowed to move Somalia towards a more inclusive and democratic electoral system, a move that's expected to end a decades-long clan-based political system.
The federal government of Somalia has already embarked on a process to draft a roadmap for universal suffrage to take place in 2024-2025. The process will require engagement with a range of key stakeholders, including our federal member states, civil society, political parties to ensure inclusive and credible election in the future.
Meanwhile, members of the opposition, including presidential aspirants seeking to vie for the country's top job next year, have formed a parallel election committee. This has widened an already existing rift ahead of crucial parliamentary and presidential vote. The United Nations is now calling for talks to end the political impasse.
We believe it's very important that the progress achieved on the non-contentious issues be secured prior to the end of this parliament so that it is not necessary to start over again. This too will require a dialogue between the federal leadership and the federal member states.
On the security front, the government said its reforms programs are on track, with the National Army due to take over security responsibilities from the multinational African Union peacekeeping force, AMISOM.
Counter Al-Shabaab, transfer of security responsibilities from AMISOM and build the core security function of Somalia. Our approach continues to be the sustainable recovery of strategic locations from Al-Shabaab in a sequenced approach enabling local development and state building.
Al-Shabaab has stepped up attacks across the country in the run-up to the vote. In November, it overran an army base, killing 15 soldiers and civilians. It also killed scores in 2 suicide blasts near the police academy and the country's international airport. The group has also threatened to disrupt the upcoming polls. Abdulaziz Bilo, CGTN, Mogadishu, Somalia.
Gender-based violence is on the rise in Ethiopia, but a lack of clear and consistent data appears to be one of the reasons why cases are not being properly investigated. Faith-based organizations in Addis Ababa are now reviewing their role in protecting women and children against abuse as part of a global campaign marking 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. CGTN's Coletta Wanjohi reports from Addis Ababa.
According to the UN Children's Education Fund, Ethiopia is home to 15 million child brides, of whom 6 million are below the age of 15. And 65% of girls and women between the ages of 15 and 49 have undergone female genital mutilation. The Ethiopian government pledged to end FGM by 2025. Now, faith-based organizations in the country are stepping up to offer assistance.
In some places, in very remote areas, you can find religious institutions, churches and mosques that you may not find a very good and strong structure of government and other institutions. And as a result of that, religious institutions do have a very excellent instrument, especially in combating and addressing such kind of issues. And the other thing is what the religious institutions do have also trust by the community.
But they admit that overcoming cultural practices that are sometimes harmful will not be easy.
People sometimes don't want their culture to be touched, they don't want it to be changed. In some cases, for example, in issues which have to do with female genital mutilation, in some cultures, it is considered as initiation rite. So for those kinds of cultures, we should think of other alternatives, other wholesome practices which mark women's transition into adulthood.
The UN says in many parts of the continent, these harmful practices continue to thrive because enacted laws are not enough.
Cultural traditions and religions and religious beliefs are often stronger than laws. While laws are critical for protecting women and girls' rights, they do not always bring about the desired behavioral change in individuals, in families, or even in communities.
Raising awareness has also proven to be a challenge. A number of religious institutions say they have already integrated gender-based violence in their studies. The UN, its partners, and the Ethiopian government have launched what they call the Red Card campaign. They are distributing these red cards, synonymous with the red cards in football. And this is to encourage people to make a daily pledge to kick out any forms of discrimination against women and girls. Coletta Wanjohi, CGTN, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
Well, the news continues on Africa Live. We will see you on the other side of the break with our business news. Here is a look at the headlines. Zimbabwe to ban importation of second-hand vehicles older than 10 years. And COVID-19 disrupts holidays in Egypt.
taken me completely out of my depth, but at the same time, it's exciting. It's new, it's different, it's a challenge.
It's really exciting.
Over the last 14 hours of rain.
Africa is the nexus of enterprise, and global business will tell you why it matters.
From the mega investment projects to multi-billion-dollar mergers and acquisitions.
Africa today collects, just in terms of revenues from taxes alone, $545 billion a year. If you take 10% of that and you devote it to the energy sector, problem solved.
All this on Global Business, weekdays at this time on CGTN.
Welcome back to Africa Live. Thanks for staying with us. We appreciate your company. Egypt has topped emerging markets in containing inflation this year as the North African state benefited from the decline in food commodity prices. The International Monetary Fund confirmed that Egypt achieved the largest annual decline in inflation rates in emerging markets in 2020 compared to 2019, with a decrease of about 8.2%. Here is CGTN's Yasser Hakim with more details.
The IMF review delegation to Egypt has described the government's economic policies as a success in withstanding the effects of the coronavirus and avoiding a major recession. The recommendations by the Bretton Woods delegation have opened the door for releasing $1.6 billion of a $5.2 billion one-year loan. But where will the government spend this amount?
The drop in demand for products after the breakout of the pandemic in mid-March was one of the reasons for slowing inflation in 2020. But as the IMF said, the main reason is the effort by the government to guarantee that there is constant supply of goods and products in the market to ensure prices remain stable and there is no shortage of goods in the market, especially the basic necessities like food and medicine.
The North African country is one of a few states worldwide to post positive growth rates, lower unemployment rates, and an 8% drop in inflation amidst the pandemic. However, Cairo had to reach out to international institutions, donor countries, and borrowing mechanisms such as bonds and treasuries to fund its stimulus package. Foreign debt stands at 33.5% of GDP.
The government and central bank have cut interest rates by 400 basic points and embarked on a financial policy that supports investment by lowering the cost of debt and facilitating funds and loans to the business and manufacturing sectors. This will allow companies to expand and pump more investments in the country.
Some experts believe that the virus will be contained, especially with the vaccine on the ground and medical knowledge of how to treat the COVID-19 patients. Therefore, there might be no need for borrowing much in the future, as revenues are slowly picking up again. Yasser Hakim for CGTN, Cairo.
For a long time, Egypt has been a favorite destination for end-year celebrations. Tourists usually flock to the Red Sea and different cities to escape the cold winter and enjoy the warm weather. But as CGTN's Yasser Hakim reports, this year could be a bit different given the challenges brought about by the pandemic.
The Christmas and New Year season should be a busy time for everyone in the tourism industry, but the COVID-19 fallout has hit the tourism industry hard. Hotel occupancy rates in Egypt have dropped by 85% since April. And Mohammed Qaoud, who owns a travel agency, he says the festive season won't be much better.
Christmas and New Year, it's one of the biggest festivals and holiday seasons for the Egyptian market. Nevertheless, due to the COVID-19 crisis, we have seen a dramatically fall in the demand compared to last year. We have worked together as an industry on how we can cope with the current challenges And from there, we start focusing more on the staycations and promoting the different gem destinations of Egypt for the local Egyptians to enjoy the beauty of their country.
Egypt has a population of 100 million people, and experts say only strong purchasing power could push occupancy rates up to 50% during the holidays from the current 20 to 25%. This could partially sustain the hospitality industry till the return of foreign visitors to pre-COVID levels. 2019 has been a record-breaking year for tourism in Egypt, attracting over 13 million tourists and income that exceeded $13.2 billion. Despite the gloomy outcome for 2020, Qaoud is optimistic that things will improve going forward.
With the good news of that they managed to secure between 94% to 95% from an effectiveness of a vaccine, we definitely see an increase in the demand starting from Easter 2021. So by 2021, we will slightly see an increase in the demand, and hopefully we will get to the same figures of 2019 by 2023. We are as well opening new destinations as well and increasing the airlines routes to another countries so we can penetrate new markets for Egypt.
So for now, it's all about getting prepared for an expected revival in this vital sector of Egypt's economy in 2021. Yasser Hakim for CGTN, Cairo.
A ban on importation of second-hand vehicles that are older than 10 years in Zimbabwe has drawn mixed reactions from stakeholders in the industry. Presenting his 2021 national budget last month, Finance Minister Professor Nta said the move was meant to reduce foreign currency expenditure on light and commercial vehicles, which ran up to $1.5 billion between 2015 and 2020. CGTN's Farai Mwakatuya filed this report from Harare.
Most of the cars in Lendri Mwamuka's lot are older than 10 years. When this inventory is gone, he won't be able to bring in the fast sellers, which are his bread and butter.
Most of these imports are usually from 2000 to about 2008, right? That's most of the cars that you get in Zimbabwe right now that people can afford.
He's not the only one worried about the impending ban.
A number of warehouses had been set up at Zimbabwe's border with South Africa to shorten the distance that customers from here need to travel to collect their vehicles. They too stand to see a sharp decline in business.
Some of them are trying to offload stock before the December 31st deadline, making things worse for local dealers.
Prices were so low that people thought there's a big sale going on in South Africa. So now we hardly get buyers, especially after the announcement by the minister. We haven't been getting buyers.
The exponential increase in second-hand car sales is indicative of demand for affordable vehicles, which has been unmet since the collapse of local assembly plants. The ban is welcome relief for the ailing domestic industry, which had been lobbying for regulated imports.
Our reaction as an association is that we are in the right direction. We do have an MIDP, which is the Motor Industry Development Policy, which we coined in 2018. In the MIDP, we had not envisaged a total ban, but we had chose to control, first of all, by duty and import CETEX, making them a bit expensive so that we phase them slowly. Whilst that is happening, we were now going to look for MOUs for our industry where people can now assemble the affordable vehicles.
Implementation of its strategy has been stifled by foreign currency shortages. The industry is hopeful that with the savings realized from reduced imports, more funds can be allocated to get it back on track. Farai Mwakatuya, CGTN, Harare, Zimbabwe.
Huawei's Seed for the Future program is enhancing ICT skills for Tunisia's university students. This, in turn, helping them cope with technology demands that comes with the dynamics in the digital space. Now running in its 6th year, the program has strengthened Tunisian-Chinese collaboration in several fields and especially in new technology. From Tunis, here is Adnan Chouachi with more details.
Despite the uncertainty caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, Tunisian participants were not deterred as they completed this year's Huawei-funded Digital Skills Development Program. The Seeds for the Future program which is sponsored by the Chinese embassy and by electronics giant Huawei, seeks to enhance skills of university students by sharpening their ICT knowledge.
We believe we are a company that we could contribute more to this society. Well, one of our advantages is we can introduce more new technologies and help Tunisia to train more young and talented people.
Today we are celebrating the ceremony for the closure of the Seeds for the Future program. This program it's at the 6th edition now in Tunisia, and frankly speaking, this is a very big and very interesting opportunity to our students to experience the enterprise culture, the Chinese culture, and have access to the latest technologies provided by Huawei.
The Tunisian Minister of ICT welcomed the partnership with Chinese electronics giant Huawei.
We are counting on the Tunisian youths and talents who are participating in this program. They will take on the challenge of digital transformation in Tunisia. In partnership with Huawei, we will make giant steps in this direction.
Tunisian engineering students believe that Seeds for the Future program is both a technological experience as well as a cultural and human journey.
We taught lots of new technologies like cloud, 5G. It was a really amazing adventure for all of us.
It was a great experience. We discovered new culture such as Chinese culture, and we made a new friendship. We discovered new opportunities in Huawei.
The finalists of the program hope to travel to China and to visit the headquarters of Huawei after the end of the global health crisis.
Many Chinese enterprises have been devoted in cultivating ICT talents in Tunisia. Seeds for the Future by Huawei is viewed by the authorities in Tunis and professionals as one of the most successful cooperation projects in the field of ICT. Adnan Shawishi, CGTN, Tunis.
British Prime Minister Boris Johnson is heading to Brussels later today in a last-minute effort to salvage stalled Brexit trade talks. He won't be showing up empty-handed, though. On Tuesday, the two parties reached an agreement on the implementation of the Brexit withdrawal agreement. This ended a dispute over the Northern Ireland border. CGTN's Tony Waterman reports.
When UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson sits down for dinner with Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen on Wednesday evening, there's at least one contentious item that will be off the menu. The UK government on Tuesday agreed to drop controversial clauses in its internal market bill, which would have allowed ministers to rip up parts of the Brexit divorce deal agreed to just a year ago. This has been hanging like a dark cloud over Brexit talks since the Johnson administration tabled this bill in the UK Parliament back in September, saying that the clauses were needed to ensure goods continued to flow between Northern Ireland and Great Britain in case Brexit talks failed. But here in Brussels, these clauses have caused immense frustration, disappointment, and mistrust. So this news has been received positively, but also cautiously.
We will continue to follow this closely and make sure the contentious provisions are effectively withdrawn. I hope that this would create positive momentum also for the discussions on the free trade agreement.
Now, Northern Ireland will remain in the EU's customs union next year, while the rest of the UK will not. But now it seems that the dreaded hard border has been softened. The UK Cabinet Office has confirmed there will be border control posts for checks on animals, plants, and derived products, and to certify export declarations. It will also apply to the supply of medicines and food products to supermarkets. But crucially, it implements a mechanism for tackling disputes, which may well be a blueprint for a trade deal. Talks on a post-Brexit trade deal remain on a knife's edge, and they've really been at a virtual standstill for weeks now. Both sides still at odds over fishing rights, governance, and the level playing field. So all attention now is on this Johnson-von der Leyen powwow, which comes just a day before EU leaders meet for a summit. Now, on Tuesday, Brussels tried to walk back reports that EU chief negotiator Michel Barnier said that talks would not go beyond Wednesday. The Commission said that the sit-down meeting is going to try to lift substantial impasses so that the negotiators can continue their work, meaning that these talks, at least in Brussels' perspective, still have some legs. Tony Waterman, CGTN, Brussels.
The second Africa short video competition has finally come to an end. Winners of the competition have been announced at award ceremonies held simultaneously in Beijing, Cape Town, and Dakar. The competition aims to promote friendship and mutual understanding between Chinese and African people, especially during this time of the coronavirus pandemic. Filmmakers also get a unique platform to showcase their talents. This year's theme was Working Hand in Hand for a Shared Future.
This year's China-Africa short video competition was held online due to the coronavirus pandemic. Held in China, Senegal, and South Africa, the contest attracted more participants and entries compared to previous year. Participants from 28 countries took part. They submitted short videos demonstrating the enthusiasm in promoting communication between China and Africa. Topics ranged from poverty eradication, economic development, and COVID-19. A short video based on the life and work of an African football coach in China won the grand prize. 19 other entries were chosen as winners.
I mean, China has a rich, beautiful culture as well to share with the rest of the world. And I'm in awe of that. So thank you for allowing us that opportunity to share that differences.
I think the importance of China-Africa is because it combines Africa and China. We exchange our cultural views. We exchange how we see each other. We exchange and learn from each other. The importance of this event is because it creates opportunities for each and everyone in Africa and in China. And together I think we can make a huge progress in the world.
In Senegal, the Confucius Institute at the University of Dakar emerged the winner.
This is the heritage.
This is the heritage of friendship, because in my work, we record a grandfather who went to China 60 years ago. At that time, he met with Mao, and then after that, he came back from China, and he was trying to promote the message from China, and he was persecuted, you see. And now, 60 years later, his grandson began to study in Confucius Institute. And what's more, and he is awarded the scholarship to China.
Through the short video competition for China-Africa cooperation, you have to understand that audiovisual productions are a powerful way of transmission, promotions of values, and bringing the people together thanks to the magic of digital technology and ICTs. The choice could not be more judicious than the short videos as the career of culture and other objectives pursued in the Sino-African cooperation.
Launched in August 2020, the competition is hosted by Beijing Review and the China International Publishing Group. It also gets support from the Chinese African People's Friendship Association. Chao Mgono, CGTN.
Tanzania is running its 5th industrial products exhibition with the aim to promote the sector's efforts towards building a semi-industrialized economy by 2025. The exhibition, which is taking place in Dar es Salaam, started on the 3rd and is set to end on the 9th of December. Now, both large and small-scale industry stakeholders will be meeting to share experiences and exploit opportunities in the sector.
This year's exhibition theme, Use Tanzanian Products, Build Tanzania, seeks to promote the use of locally made industrial products. The Tanzania Trade Development Authority says the platform presents much-needed exposure for Tanzanian producers and their products to reach both local and international markets.
These exhibitions have helped me to gain exposure and push my brand.
Since it was introduced in 2016, participants in these industrial exhibitions have recorded positive outcome in their business.
The exhibitions boosts the market growth because when you stay in only one place, you cannot sell. These exhibitions allows for a business to grow in the market. You meet with new customers. Also, you can learn new things and exchange ideas. Therefore, when you come here, you learn.
The Tanzania Industrial Products Exhibition was founded by President John Magufuli, and in his second term, he has expressed his commitment to the sector by promising to ensure there is sufficient supply of power to support growth of industries. Beryl Oro, CGTN.
And we are not done just yet. We've got a lot more news coming your way after the break. Here are the headlines. Made in Africa, we explore the traditional Sabaha silk weaving from Ethiopia.
My family has been doing this artwork for the past 600 years.
My dream is to be a leading player in Africa in spice sector.
Nobody in the region consumes it. Even me cannot afford the vanilla cooking.
What we've created here is the elegance, the color, the celebration of life.
Welcome back to Africa Live. Thanks for tuning in. Well, hand weaving in Ethiopia dates back centuries. The craft has been passed down through the generations. Woven cloth is used to make traditional clothing. But as Ethiopia modernizes, younger generations are choosing not to pursue this skill. Miaz Tilahun is one of the few Ethiopians who have chosen to keep this art alive. The technique he uses has not changed. However, his designs and experiments with color, material, and patterns gives the trade a unique touch. Let's take a look.
So there is a long tradition for it. We don't see this anymore in the Western world, really. Saba is just a very nice example because it's really produced from the scratch there. So it's really the story of made in Ethiopia.
በሽመና ስራ ውስጥ ከ14 ዓመት በላይ ሰርቻለሁ። የሽመና ባለሙያ ነኝ፣ ዲዛይነር ነኝ ማለት ነው እና ዲዛይን ሳደርግ አብዛኞቹ በውስጥ የሚመላለሱትን ስራዎች እሰራለሁ። ከዛ ባለፈ አዳዲስ ሳምፕሎችን በዚህ በእኛ ባለንበት ድርጅቶች ውስጥ አያቴ ሽመና ይሰራል፣ ግን ጎበዝ ሸማኔ የሚባል አይደለም። በእርግጥ ነጋዴ ነው። እሱ እኔ እንድሰራም ሆነ በዛ ሙያ ውስጥ እንደሆን አይፈልግም ይመስለኛል። ግን እኔ ተደብቄ እሞክር ነበርና ከ10 ዓመት በፊት ያሰብኩትን ስራ ሰርቼ በጣም ተደስቻለሁ። ያንን ለመስራት 5-6 ጊዜ ተበላሽቶብኛልና ብትሳሳች እንኳን ማለት ነው የተሳሳትሽውን ስህተት በማብዛት ሌላ ዲዛይን መፍጠር እንደሚቻል
When something is handmade, like plates, glasses, or wonderful napkins, no napkin will be 100% the same. And I think that's what makes it special. So each item is actually unique. Because what we want to do in restaurants and hotels nowadays, we want to become a little bit more home, not as sterile as hotels maybe sometimes are. We were looking around to see what we could use within our hotel, and then we met with the people from Sabah. And I think it was a very nice collaboration because one is the quality of what they produce, but also behind of how many ladies they give opportunity to work with, how they really start from scratch to produce wonderful products.
በሚሸምንበት ጊዜ ዋናው የምለው ነገር ያው ጥሬ ዕቃው ወሳኝ ነው። ኮተን ተጠቀማለሁ፣ ሐር እንጠቀማለሁ። ሐሩን ለማምረት የሚመገባቸው ቅጠሎች አሉ፣ የጉሎ ቅጠል ይባላል እና እሱን ከተመገበ በኋላ ከ45 እስከ 60 ቀን ሲቆይ 5 ጊዜ ነው 4 ጊዜ እንደዚህ ይገፋል። እየቀየረ ይመጣል ሲልኩን ለማምረት ሲደርስ ማለት ነው። እዛ ውስጥ በ24 ሰዓት ውስጥ ሐሩን አምርቶ ይጨርሳል ማለት ነው። ከኛ ከኢትዮጵያን ባህል የተለየ ልብስ ነው እዚህ የሚሰራው እና በጣም ብዙ የምጠቀማቸው የክር የቀለም አይነቶች አሉ። እነሱን በማቀላቀል በጣም ብዙ አይነት ዲዛይን እሰራለሁ እና ሰራተኞቹም ያንን ወስደው ይጠቀሙበታል። ጥሩ ፊድባክ አለው። እኔ አሁን አንዳንድ ጊዜ ይሄን ስራ እኮ እዚህ ከሀገር ውስጥ እኮ አይሰራም፣ እኔ ነኝ የሰራሁት ስራዎቹን ይሄን እኔ ነኝ የሰራሁት ምናምን ማለት ብዙ መስራት ስለምፈልግ መግለጽ ብዙ አይመቸኝም። ምክንያቴ ስራውን ሌላው ሰው ይሰራዋል። አሁን ይሄ ምን አዲስ ነገር ነው? እና አብዛኞቹም ወደዚህ ስራ የየራሳቸው ምክንያት ይኖራል። ራስን ለመቻል መጀመሪያ ይሄንን መስራት ከዛ በኋላ ሌላ ስራ እሰራለሁ ብለው ነው አብዛኞቹ የሚገቡት። ግን ለረጅም ጊዜ ሳያስቡት አብዛኞቹ ሳያስቡት እንደገቡ ነው የሚያስቡት እና
For me, survival is a basic thing for them, from what I understood, because it depends. I mean, if you're working at Sabahar or some upscale or well-established institutions, I mean, the pay could be good, you could survive, you have the liberty of designing, creating, things like that. But I mean, if you go to Shiromeda and see the small-scale weavers, survival is their biggest issue now. They tell you that the money they're making by selling these items, it's not as satisfactory, I mean, in terms of pricing. And unfortunately now, the clothing are being cloned, being mass manufactured, which is a very big problem. So they're no longer handmade. I won't say for everything, but they're mass manufacturing it. I think the weaving industry has a very big potential of expanding and growing. It is growing now, but mainly for exports. But the usage locally is not here yet. I mean, it's here, but it's more occasional.
ግን በራሴ አካባቢ ሳየው በጓደኞቼ ሳየው እንደው በጣም ትንሽ ነን የቀረ ነው በዚህ ሙያ ውስጥ ያለ ነው እና ለወደፊቱ እኔ ጥያቄ አለኝ። በዚህ ይቀጥላል ወይ አላውቅም። ፈጣሪ ነው የሚያውቀው።
You're watching Africa Live on CGTN. We've got your sports news coming up after the break. Let's take a peek at that headline. Dramatic scenes at European Champions League as racism row overshadows a crucial match. Welcome into Sport on Africa Live. Thanks for sticking